Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Anarita Bashaliva, along with co-hosts Dr. Victor Fett, Dr. Katerina Shrey, and our program producer, Professor Larry Sherray. We host a weekly discussion panel on Russia's war on Ukraine with guests from Ukraine, military experts, medical personnel, academics, artists, literary figures, and relief workers. Our panel is recorded and circulated nationally and internationally. We appreciate your comments and feedback. Special thanks to Marshall University Libraries and MUIT for making this weekly event possible. If you are joining us live on Teams, please feel free to use the chat to post any question for our guest. Today's guest will be introduced by Professor Victor Fett.
Thank you, Anna, and I'm very honored and glad to introduce Khrystyna PELCHAR from Morgantown, West Virginia, our neighbor, because we are in Huntington, also in West Virginia. And Khrystyna is a graduate of West Virginia University, as I said, in Morgantown, and founder of Ukrainian Mountaineers Association. And she will tell us about this student organization and everything around it and their activities since the beginning of the full-scale war. Khrystyna is from Ukraine. Please, Khrystyna, microphone is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here today. It is my pleasure to join this discussion. And my name is Khrystyna PELCHAR. I'm a PhD student in political science. And I am one of the co-founders of Ukrainian Mountaineer Association. Ukrainian Mountaineer Association, it has become a shelter for all Ukrainian students to basically learn how to persevere through these events, terrible, horrific events, the very beginning of full-scale invasion, something that none of us expected, and we couldn't believe that these things are happening. We couldn't sleep nights. We had our daily meetings and our support group. And after meeting more and more Ukrainians following the full-scale invasion, we decided that we need an official forum. So we registered Ukrainian Mountaineers Organization, student organization, where we invited Ukrainian students and basically all other people who are students or who are supporting Ukraine to learn more about Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian history, and provide updates on the current events happening in Ukraine. Let me share my presentation with you about the Ukrainian Mountaineer Association. So, as I said, we started as a small group of students willing to support each other with the beginning of the full-scale invasion. And as you can see, the goals of Ukrainian mountaineers is to unite and provide support to Ukrainian students and alumni of West Virginia University, create homely atmosphere, and engage other students, Ukrainian people and Morgantown community in cultural activities, educational, and other social events. And here you can see the picture, one of our first rallies and information session on the war in Ukraine. So this is how our information sessions look like. We have our TV screen showing YouTube videos and other news. We also have a lot of printout from the war, and a lot of volunteers joined us in preparation for this information session to prepare all these posters. those were like separate cultural events where we connected more closely with other students, professors, community of Morgantown that very strongly supported us throughout the process. And not only we shared the contemporary history of Ukraine, but also fun facts about Ukraine, Ukrainian history, Ukrainian culture, agriculture, and so on. We had also shared this information session on more than one campus at a time. We had Ukrainian weeks, we had Ukrainian Day, where we have a set of different events, starting with information session, and then we went outside and had a peaceful demonstration in support of Ukraine. Then we had cultural events, whether watching Ukrainian movies, we had the night Support Ukraine through the film, and we also invited Ukrainian musicians to play songs, and we had a lot of professors that strongly stood with Ukraine and supported volunteers, groups, charity organizations in Ukraine, and organized fundraising. And our student organization that assisted with marketing and inviting people over. One of our strongest supporters were professors at WVU, Lisa Di Bartolomeo and Eric Heron. And I will tell you a little bit more about them in just a moment. So here we have also exhibition on heroes of Ukraine and the ongoing situation. And here I can see some of my students. I'm also a graduate teaching assistant and instructor in course Introduction to International Relations. And when I'm going through this picture, I can recognize some of my students, which is very nice. I helped to, I would say, inspired some interest in what is happening in Ukraine. And there was a group of students in my class that prepared documentary about Ukrainian war with like exact chronology, and it was impressive. We even helped them register the theater for one of the evenings and show it to the entire university because they took it very seriously. And I feel very supported not only in the way that we have this organization with a lot of Ukrainian students, professors, and just community members who can understand what Ukraine is going through, what we are going through, and how important it is for us to stay connected and just have this small Ukraine here in West Virginia, where it feels like home when we're all together. At the same time, we feel very motivated to continue going on with these events because people show interest, they show support, and also they learn more about Ukraine. So we had the panels, discussions, lectures, discussion with Professor Dubovik, who came to visit us from Odessa National University. He is a professor of international relations and an expert of Ukrainian foreign policy, US-Ukrainian relations, and Black Sea security issues. We also had a lecture by Professor Serhiy Zhuk on heroic Ukraine and imperialist Russia, which was a great historical perspective on revealing that this war is not new, but a continuation of a struggle that has been there for centuries. And we also had a discussion with a visiting politician, Oleg Medunitsa, on the future political landscape in Ukraine. Oleg Medunitsa is also president of Anti-Imperial Bloc of Nations and leader of Organization of Ukrainian Nations, a former member of Ukrainian parliament. And I remember in one of his discussions, he basically revealed how the end of the war in Ukraine is important for the rest of the free democratic world, and how many nations within Russia, they just want independence from Russia as well. And what was his perspective on the current war, and the resolution was to empower nations within Russian Federation, so that Russian imperialist ambition cannot grow any further. And when we look at the history, most empires, they collapse soon after they stop growing. And maybe that's exactly what Russia is so afraid of. And here we have Professor Lisa DiBartolomeo and Professor Eric Heron and me. It was one of the panels on, of course, on the war in Ukraine. I don't remember the exact title. And normally after these events, after Ukrainian Day or Ukrainian Week, we are hosting a vigil, and we are all together praying for for peace in Ukraine, for Ukraine to stay strong, and of course for fallen Ukrainian heroes, and we sing Ukrainian songs. Actually, from this image, you cannot see how many people actually attended our vigil, but I hope we can find some more. So this is how our peaceful demonstrations look like. We can see a lot of passing cars are signaling in support of Ukraine. We also have a lot of students missing their classes to join our peaceful demonstration. Of course, we don't support missing classes, but this is something important, and this is also almost a lecturing format where we have several speakers speaking from the heart and revealing, updating us on what is happening in Ukraine. And this is a screenshot I took from one of our local newspapers, and they said, "We are all together, we are all united." Actually, that's what we said multiple times during this protest. And as you can see, we support Ukraine as we can. We have, of course, limited resources, but we believe that spreading the awareness, information, and raising support is going to make a difference. Because who has the information controls the world. At least that's what Ukrainian wisdom says. And we want to believe that. And also given that during the full-scale invasion, even prior to the physical invasion, Russia started waging information war against Ukraine. We just have to. We have to speak out so that no information is misread, misunderstood. A lot of fake narratives are still on there. And we have to fight with this disinformation as much as people are fighting physically on the battlefield. And also we have people from other states visiting us here in Morgantown, West Virginia, which we are very grateful for. We have representatives from almost all regions of Ukraine. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier, I am from Lviv Oblast, Lviv, and I graduated law school in Ivan Franko National University. And then I decided to pursue my master's in international history and security studies. So first, I was majoring in international relations while I was in Poland, Warsaw, Collegium Civitas, or as people in Poland call it, Stalinka. They don't really like that name, but that building is also the Palace of Culture, and it holds an anti-terrorist center on the first floor, from what I remember. It's a great, I would say, it's just a beautiful university, a beautiful spot which separates Warsaw into all the new town. And I really miss Collegium Civitas. And I'm saying that because this week we had Katarzyna Maniszewska, professor from Collegium Civitas, visiting us here at West Virginia University. And then I moved to West Virginia to continue through this program where I majored in history. However, I arrived here 6 months later due to COVID restrictions on travel. And when I arrived, I only had 6 months to work on my master thesis, and I was far behind. And the reason for that is because the semester in Poland starts in October, and here it's late August. And I had to confirm and have approval from both sides on my master thesis in order to proceed further. And it was a little challenging also because of the time differences, and I still had to attend some classes in Poland on Zoom. And while I was in Poland, I had to attend some Zoom classes with WVU, which was fine because it was like after midnight, so I didn't have any classes there. It was a very valuable experience, and I'm really glad that I had this opportunity to study the class Introduction to actually International Relations in 3 different countries. And I was able to evaluate 3 different approaches. First, it was at Ivan Franko Lviv National University, where this journey started. And it was more from the legal perspective. And also, while I was in Lviv, I started the American law school. It was more like a certification provided by Chicago-Kent College of Law. It was only a few months long with prospective continuation in Chicago, but it was a little over my budget. So I'm happy to learn American constitutional law, I would say basics, and without diving too deep in intellectual property, but it has benefited about my understanding, like how different is in terms of the sources of law, Anglo-Saxon and Romano-German systems of law. And now when I'm teaching this course myself, Introduction to International Relations, sometimes, it really helps to show these diverse perspectives to my students, and probably they're tired hearing about Ukraine. It's like collective action problem, Ukraine, liberalism, Ukraine, realism. I'm gonna give you an example of Ukraine, where we have this security dilemma with every state fighting for its own survival. Alliances are just temporary, and all states pursue their national interests. Our organization is very diverse as well. We have students from different departments that are Ukrainians and that are not Ukrainians. We have a lot of American students being very supportive of our organizations from the very first days of our registration as an organization, and been willing to learn, to support. They talk to their parents about war in Ukraine. They found ways to donate money to Ukraine. Even some people asked about clothes and other necessities. And each of us were praying for that our families are alive, and that someday we can go back to Ukraine and see it prosperous, successful, as we all want to support it. Even though from the distance, I don't feel very distant to Ukraine at all, because first of all, we have our part, a little part of Ukraine here, is our Ukrainian people. You know, they say, if you lack something, you can create it. So we created this community where we also have a lot of cultural events. And by cultural events, I mean cooking Ukrainian borscht is one of our events, and tasting of Ukrainian borscht, vareniki, and other Ukrainian meals. It's very hard to explain very briefly what is Ukrainian mentality or history about, because it can take a lifetime to learn what it is, and another life to truly understand what it is. But what we're trying to do, we're trying to share our experiences, our emotions, our stories. And when people are exposed to these personal experiences, I feel like they are more familiar, or they can just recognize, yes, this is something important. People are dying on a daily basis. And these people are just worried for their families, as if I would be if my family was in danger. And territory is a huge part of our identity. Therefore, nations have right to self-determination and once established territories. Because if territory was not important, we would not have borders. We would just have one universal world without any citizenships. And of course, globalization is ongoing, and we are all interconnected, and we can feel this interconnectedness. And we have a lot of, I don't want to say, we are just exposed a lot to, different cultures, and we are learning from one another. And the more you travel, the more you learn how to adapt, and it also affects who you are. And now it turns into philosophical discussion. Let us move backwards. So, Ukrainian Mountaineers Association is still functioning, and we are planning several events. I don't know the exact details or dates. We're still waiting for the confirmation. And I asked my executive members not to nominate me as a president for this year, because I am the 5th-year PhD student. I'm working as a career counselor at Career Services, and also I'm working on my dissertation. This year has been extremely busy for me, and just my official work schedule is like 60 hours a week. Therefore, I really feel that you have to be able to contribute and take this with a lot of responsibility. And right now, my availability, it's not that I don't wish, to manage the organization. I just don't want to fail, not to register wrong room or wrong timing. And this miscommunication can occur when you just lack time for all these small things to arrange one event into place. It's not just invite people over or communicate with the media or communicate with the scheduling department, make sure that space is available for that time, request all of the technical equipment, and then communicate through whether you have any issues or not, to request banners for marketing the event, email the departments, and ask students to attend to your event, search for speakers, and so on. It requires a lot of logistics, communication, and I was very proud and I was very happy. It was like the best time I could have spent to manage this organization. But again, this organization is not just about me. It's about Ukrainian students. It's about our values and our love to Ukraine, the reason why we founded this organization, because we feel the necessity, we feel supported, and we feel that we are bringing value to the community while sharing what is happening back home, when we connect with our friends from Ukraine, and when we make more information available and counter disinformation in our speeches, lectures, and discussions. That was my brief presentation about Ukrainian Mountaineers Association. Please let me know if you have any questions.
I have a question.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I have
Go
a
ahead,
question.
Anara, please.
Yeah, if it's, I'm sorry. That, first of all, I am just very impressed that you are doing a lot, collecting people. It's not easy. And also you highlight that actually the most important moments in current situation, because that's not easy to identify what is the most important right now. And also I'm impressed by people's activism. They also interested in stopping this war. And that's my question is, first question, what is the future of your organization and activism? How you see it's in the future, how it might be expanded or might be mature even more. So that's very interesting. And the second question I have, because you're a researcher and a writer, and and you mentioned that you are teaching also, and I think that some realists believe that Russia's war is a result of NATO's expansion. And what do you think it's about this? And other realists believe that United States should stay out from this war, and even other very actually conservative realists, they believe that Ukraine might not be important in the future. The Russia might be more important for the American interest. So that's actually that's many questions like that we have here when you actually read newspapers, and that's why I would like to ask you, what do you think about this? And the last question, actually, when we talk about realist scholars, why United States did not stop Russia's aggression first in, say, Chechnya, then in Georgia. McCain tried to do something, but actually it did not work. And then they did not intervene in Crimea, and why they're a little bit slow today. What do you think about this? Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Let me start with the first one, the future of Ukrainian Mountaineers Association. Well, it's hard for me to predict exactly. I want to be hopeful and optimistic about the future. There will be more Ukrainian students in the future, and they will expand. They will continue on our efforts to share Ukrainian values, culture, and awareness. And hopefully we will have peaceful, successful, independent Ukraine in the future, nearest future. About speaking about the language department, unfortunately, we do not have foreign language department anymore. And as you know, a lot of Ukrainian students or any international students are going to teach Ukrainian to universities through that department. And the number of international students is in decline, but we hope it will change over time. The next one. Realists also said that the United States should not start the war in Vietnam. And yes, realists, they focus on, first of all, we see world as an anarchic system. It's not chaotic. We do not have any central government, which means that every state is operating by self-help, relying only on itself. And one of the good quotes that can reflect on realism is, there are no eternal enemies, no eternal friends. Alliances are fluid. And that's exactly what realism is teaching us. You have to be strong to survive. Because when we have a situation that is shown by security dilemma, one state commitment to become stronger, so that it's not. So it's basically working as a mechanism. Being strong is a mechanism to deter attacks, and by aggressor or being attacked is a way to maintain one's own security. But when you are becoming stronger, your neighbor is becoming vulnerable. They're like, we have to grow stronger too. We have to get more weapons to overshadow this another neighbor with whom, in case of his aggression, we have to get ready, prepared. Preparation is the key, and we, of course, in realists hope that this strong military strength is basically a deterrent from being attacked. At the same time, they're not always saying that war is bad. In some cases, using military as a leverage is useful. Sometimes it's not. It all depends on national interest. But national interest is not something that is stable. It is changing over time. Therefore, alliances are changing. Everything changes. And we have an opposing view to realism, liberalism, where we have international organization, international community that are working closely together in order to resolve any conflicts through a different leverage than referring to war. And we can see, those are theories. We cannot argue that they are 100% correct. Either one is incomplete, and there are many assumptions we can say are oversimplification of the world, such as realism assumes that states are unitary actors. Then how would you explain the collapse of the Soviet Union? And also within Soviet Union, I don't want to go back to Soviet Union. I mean, neither does my grandma want to go back to Soviet Union. I remember some of her stories. You have to be in Communist Party in order to be able to move along your career or to find a job or to do anything, which is scary. I'm glad Ukraine is a democracy. We are comparatively new democracy, but we are a democratic country. I'm sorry, somewhere in realism I got lost. Could you please remind me the question?
Yeah, just maybe it's too lengthy. It's not necessary to answer all questions. I like that you mentioned once Budapest Memorandum, and it's very interesting for us to see how we can consider is today, how we can interpret this today, because some people don't know this, and it would be interesting if you can a little bit expand and talk about Budapest Memorandum situation in the past and today, how we can consider this.
Absolutely. Well, even before Budapest Memorandum, there was some pressure on Ukraine, especially from the United States, to join non-proliferation treaty. And after we signed Budapest Memorandum, by which Russia, United Kingdom, and United States guaranteed our security, so we relinquished our nuclear arsenal, we became truly vulnerable. And many Ukrainians nowadays criticize this decision. And they're like, if we could go back in history, we would never do that. Because this is something that would serve as a deterrent in 2022 Russian full-scale invasion, and also along with annexation of Crimea in 2014 and hostilities that started with in eastern part of Ukraine, of course, with Russian operations and declaration, and actually the declaration of independence of Luhansk and Donetsk regions. And today I went through some of the news and I realized that there is such a strong confusion why the war in Ukraine started in 2014. And you can find some just, I don't even know how to describe it, something very irrational, that Ukrainians just didn't want these regions, or Ukrainians should be happy that now all of Ukraine speaks Ukrainian. First of all, we never said we didn't want eastern part of Ukraine or ethnic Russians. We did not have any hostilities. This was Russian propaganda that made it look as we have been, ready to split Ukraine with the independence. There were no issues since the very declaration of independence until Russia intervened into our domestic affairs. I mean, Russia has been intervening, let's just be fair. Pro-Russian presidents, Orange Revolution, and the Revolution of Dignity, it's obvious. Russia has been intervening. And when it failed, because we got stronger, strong civil society grew up and stood up for what we really wanted, there was an intervention, obviously, authoritarian intervention that just wanted to rule and expand its imperialism. NATO eastward expansion. What a terrible threat. Does Russia even consider that the growing of the NATO would actually weaken NATO? It will not make it stronger. And also, it is not so easy to invoke Article 5. Why does it scare somebody that NATO members can invoke Article 5? First, there had to be official voting, approval, this extremely lengthy mechanism that would need an aggression to be recognized by Security Council, that this particular act constitutes an aggression and it has to be approved. At the same time, we can say that Ukraine is an independent state. It's an independent state. It's not part of Soviet Union. It's not part of Russia. And Russia is just not saying this because it's still treating Ukraine as its subject and dictating us, even like right now, the bullet points for peace agreement. And the world, I mean, I'm not saying about the entire world. Of course, Europe has been very supportive of us lately. And we're not going to talk about Nord Stream 2 today, sorry. It's going to take too long. But European leaders supported us. And we're very grateful for that. And they understand that Ukraine is not willing to cede its territory. And it would be morally wrong Like we would expect that we are civilized. We're in 21st century. We have all these international institutions, and what they are for, just to observe how the aggressor is invading another state and appease the aggressor and just say that Ukraine has to forgive and forget. It is not how justice work. When somebody comes to your house and kills your family members, you don't just say it's okay if you just go and leave my house now and go live your life peacefully. This is not how justice works, and it shouldn't be that way. Not only it is morally wrong after all of international laws have been violated and Putin has been charged with war crimes. Now he's going to dictate the peaceful agreement for the country, for the nation that basically became victim of his actions. So it's not about NATO eastward expansion. NATO eastward expansion was like one of the narratives why Russia should feel threatened. And yes, I mean, just I don't think it's a huge point at our peace negotiation table right now, or it's extremely importance to Ukraine at this point. But we shouldn't be dictated whether we can or we cannot join. If we cannot join, like it's hard for NATO members to vote for our accession because we have an aggressive neighbor. And whenever we join NATO, they would have an aggressive neighbor. Nobody wants that. And that's one of our biggest challenges. Our geography is our blessing and is our curse. And until Russian nations become free, nations that strive for self-determination within Russian Federation as it is now, which would actually simplify the resolution of this war and also Russian actions in Moldova, Georgia, and elsewhere. I'm sorry. I'm trying to.
No, that's very
Go
important
back.
because it's a huge topic. I think we should have another discussion. Second one.
It's perfect.
Yeah, I
perfect.
think you are so knowledgeable, and for us, it's very interesting.
Thank
It's
you.
extremely valuable. Thank you, Khrystyna.
Mhm.
We don't want to take too much of your time, but we are really thankful for your expertise and ability to communicate it. I don't want to say that your English is way too perfect, and I don't want even to start asking how many more languages you know. You should be fluent in Polish for sure if you studied in Warsaw. But let me give you a breath, a little. I will show these 2 minutes that you kindly showed us of the presentation right now to conclude our long session. And if you want to say a couple of final comments after this, we will finish with this one. Let me try to share my screen and start present right now.
New page in our history of Ukraine, free, independent.
The Stand with Ukraine Through film event, which showcased the film The Guide, is aimed to help people understand what has led up to the ongoing war in Ukraine. Khrystyna PELCHAR and Mark Vodyany of the Ukrainian Mountaineers Association both echo the importance of this history.
You know, it's a good idea to educate the public, American public, about the prehistory of the war, and to educate the public about the famines that were happening in Ukraine back in the day, and all of that war was the pretext to the current war that Russia has imposed on Ukraine.
Khrystyna says forming the UMA gives her and her fellow Ukrainian students a chance to share their culture, and also for other students to see their perspective on the war.
We are so happy that we can remain who we are and share our culture, our values with other students, and I think it's important nowadays that people see our perspective.
Something that Mark also hopes people will see after watching this film, making them aware of those who are fighting for the freedom of their nation.
A lot of my friends are fighting alongside with like ordinary people. So when people will be watching this film, I want them to think about them. I want them to think about Ukraine, and to think about the people overall, and what we can do to support them, to facilitate them in their efforts to liberate the land.
Keeping you connected, I'm Cam Murray, Fox 10.
Thank you for showing one of the videos from our event. So that is briefly what Ukrainian Mountaineers Association is about. And speaking about the conclusion of the war in Ukraine, I feel like it's really worth looking into what Ukrainian people want. And what Ukrainian people want, I'm not trying to answer this question just from my perspective. What I recommend policymakers, diplomats to do is just to take a look at sociological survey and see what Ukrainian population desires. And the majority of Ukrainians, despite the war fatigue, they don't want to cede any territory to Russia. And that is an important consideration to take into account.
Absolutely. We all pray for victory and peace for Ukraine, for the world, and we very much thank you for being with us at MUkraine discussion group at Marshall University, also in West Virginia. And for those who will watch it outside of West Virginia, you will have to explain what the word mountaineers means, unless they think you're
And let me
alpinists.
translate it to Ukrainian. So around a year ago, my mother, I am just very grateful not only to have here my mountaineer family, but to have my mother visiting me and staying with me for a little bit. I felt extremely lonely living by myself abroad for a very long time. First, I moved to Poland, where I lived for around 2 years. Then I came here, and it's my fifth or sixth year, almost 6 years I've been living here. And my mother joined me, and she doesn't speak English fluently, but she's going to school and she's working on her English right now. And what was I willing to tell you about my mother?
You wanted to talk about mountaineers.
Yes, mountaineers. And I told her about Ukrainian Mountaineers Association and that we are mountaineers here. And she's like, what is that? And I'm like, basically to translate it to Ukrainian people, I'm going to say it in Ukrainian first. Гірські люди, mountain people. Because we live here in the mountains and we enjoy these beautiful views on the mountains. Our favorite location here is the Cooper's Rock. I'm not sure if you've ever been here, but you should visit. It's beautiful at every season. And we enjoyed our first sunset there. My mother's like, yes, now I'm also a mountain person. And we do have a similar region in Ukraine. Therefore, I feel very connected with Ukraine while I'm here. Like I went to Carpathian Mountains. And we also have a lot of winter sports. So that is just made us feel very connected to our Carpathian region back home, but it also made us vulnerable to these extremely stormy weather conditions during the winter, and last winter was no piece of cake. A lot of snow, freezing with a very strong winter wind blowing.
Appalachians are much like Carpathians, and let me conclude by reminding people outside of West Virginia that the state motto of West Virginia since 1872 is "Mountaineers are always free, Montani sempre liberi." It's on our flag and state seal and coat of arms. That's where the word comes from, and we wish that freedom would be there not only for us, but for independent Ukraine. Thank you very much, Khrystyna, for your wonderful presentation. Slava Ukraine.
Heroyam Slava. Thank you for inviting me here today.
Thank you.